We're ready when you are.
We're ready. All right. We're muted in line. 1 second. Hi. Welcome everyone to the Cobb Board of Elections and Registration pre-certification meeting on this lovely Valentine's Day. I am Jennifer Mosbacher, Vice Chair, presiding today, and we're going to call the meeting to order at 3 o'clock. Those who would be so inclined to stand for the pledge may do so.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice.
Does anybody have any changes to the agenda for today? No? Is there a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved.
For a second?
Second.
And then I guess we'll just vote. Sure, go for it. Aye.
Aye.
Great. We do not have any meeting minutes. We're going to move right into ballot adjudication, and I will turn it over to you, Director Cobb.
Thank you. So we don't have any provisional ballots that need your vote. So we did have 21 election day provisional ballots and 1 absentee by mail provisional ballot, but none of them are needing a vote. So 18 of those on election day were out of precinct. So all of those will be, they're actually just started the session to have duplication and vote review panel. So that's going on right now. So they're working on processing those. And then the other 3 have until 5 p.m. to provide documentation. So 1 is someone who was not on the voter roll, but they believe they should be. And then the other 2 are people who didn't have ID. And so they have until 5 p.m. to provide us documentation and identification. So we won't know if those will be counting until 5 p.m. So I'll let you guys know what the final number is on Monday. So we can move into just the review and jump right into it. So first, I wanted to go over just a few things. So like I mentioned, we just have 2 outstanding activities now. Canvas was done pretty quickly, so that's already been completed. Everything looked great. So they're working on the provisional ballots now, as I mentioned, and then of course, once those are done after 5 p.m., we'll upload those remaining ballots, and then that'll give us our final totals. And so then we'll have our final and complete results, which is what she'll get on Monday. So the only change will be whatever provisional ballots are counted.
May I ask, do you have the ability to share your screen? Because it doesn't appear it is sharing.
It is.
Is it?
Yeah. The risk limiting audit will take place next Tuesday, February 18th. The parties have already been notified. It'll start at 10:30 and it'll go until 5. I think we'll be done pretty quickly, but I want to give it in time. It'll be here and it'll just be 2 teams since it's going to be pretty small. So each party can designate 2 representatives to observe. Okay, so we'll dive into the election materials review. So everyone had a thumb drive on your spot at your table to look at some of these files. If you want to look at them over the weekend, I'm going to pull some of them up. So we have the election summary report, the numbered lists are on there, and then significant votes cast is also on there. So one thing that's changed with the numbered list. So the numbered list that was public used to be for both AIP and election day, be the numbered list that came from ePolls. The state is no longer allowing the ePolls AIP numbered list to be public and available for open records request. The reason for that is if you take the numbered list for AIP and you compare it against the CBR, it's very easy to figure out how someone voted because it gives you a check-in time with their ballot style. And since AIP, it's all different ballot styles voting at one location, it's pretty easy to figure out within 5 to 10 minutes if that ballot was cast, that was that person's vote. So that's something that us as election officials have been imploring with the state for several years now. So they're finally making that move. So we do get a copy of the ePolls AIP numbered list for adjudication and office use. So you do have a copy of that on your flash drive, but it is not available for public use, so it can't be shared with anyone outside of the board and office.
Can that column not be deleted?
No,
It can,
I mean, it could be, but then it wouldn't be the report in its entirety.
okay.
So that would be a question for the Secretary of State. Is they're the owners of that list?
Do we not have that ability to do that ourselves?
We could, but that direction of what's available, because they're the owners of the list, that direction has to come from the Secretary of State. I can't, since I'm not the person who owns the list, I can't make the decision. But the state is saying this is no longer available for open records requests, only the Jarvis list is for AIP. Then I don't have the ability to say something different. So I'm not the custodian of that record.
Was there an official memo on that?
No, that came from the vendor. And then, like I mentioned, the SOBC is also on your flash drive, and I included a final copy of my slides on there as well. So let me pull up, we'll start with the election summary report. Get that pulled up. All right, so this hasn't changed since you got a copy on election night, because provisionals haven't been tabulated yet. So we do still see that our final ballots and voters cast for election day was at 5,638. AIP was 3,307. ABM was 41. We do have one additional, like I mentioned, provisional ABM. And then the provisional ballots that are remaining, which before we added provisionals puts us at a total of 8,986 or 3.74% turnout. I did want to point out that you'll notice when you look in each race, when you're looking at this first row of times cast, there's a total out of the total registered voters versus the total of the actual votes that were cast. So times cast versus votes cast. There is a difference in those, and that accounts for blank ballots. So for example, in the Republican District 2 race, there were 5. There's a difference of 5, so that would be 5 blank ballots. The only difference for the District 2 for the Democratic race is that also counts the ballots for Tanisha Horton. So since she withdrew, we don't count those ballots. What the law tells us to do is they can't be tabulated. So that's 108, a difference of 108 there. So that's a combination of blank ballots and votes for Ms. Horton since she was withdrawn.
So her votes are included in the count of.
Yeah, so it's included in the times cast because the ballot was still cast, but there's no votes cast for her because we don't tabulate.
Do you remember what the breakdowns in that 108, how many were for her and how many were blank?
We can't count how, we're not, the law says you don't tabulate the votes,
Together.
they're just counted as no
And I
votes.
remember, I don't know which election it was, you had explained why there was a difference between the total and the number of votes cast. Thank you for reminding me, but I remember we've actually had this conversation.
Yeah, we always have people who want to cast blank ballots for whatever reason, so that's their personal choice.
Is that different than the people who check in and walk out before they cast?
Yes,
ballots?
so their number is not going to show here in the actual report if they did not put a ballot through the scanner. So when someone checks in and they sign their voter oath and then they leave without casting their ballot, that's when we get that discrepancy between check-ins and ballots cast,
Okay.
which we didn't have for this election because it was so small. So this is just people who actually put a ballot through the scanner, but it was blank.
Mhm.
Or in the case for D2 Dem, someone maybe blank ballot or a vote for Ms. Horton. And then for District 4, we had a difference of 2 in the Republican race. So that would be 2 blank ballots and then a difference of 4 in the D4 Democrat race. So that would be 4 blank ballots cast there. And we obviously see those 2 during the RLA. We have a pile for no votes. So we always confirm that when we have those totals for the RLA. So that's our election summary report. We have,
Quick question on the RLA. Since the state is not involved in this election, they're not going to be doing rolling the dice and telling them to switch batches. We select the batches to check.
sure, so I believe it's not required to do an RLA since it's not a statewide race, but we're doing one anyway. So we still use the same software, so they use a random number generator to pull those batches for us, since I don't own 2010 sided die. So they're gonna use a random number generator for us, so
Okay.
but we're all set to go on that. Once we have the final results in with the provisionals, that's when we create the reports of the batch manifest, we import it, and then it selects the batches for us. So we'll know that Monday, and the team will be able to pull those Tuesday morning before we get started. So that is the election summary report. You'll also have the statement of votes cast, which is kind of hard to see because it's so much information, but it does have all the precincts listed. So you'll see these precincts have 0. That's because they weren't in this election, but they're still listed since they're county precincts. But then when you get to precincts where they were open, you'll see their results there. So you have that. It's a short one with this election, it's only 85 pages. And then let me go back to my slide so I can show you how our numbered lists shaped up. Right, so we had a great perfect match on our numbered lists, both the Jarvis numbered list and the AIP numbered list. So I didn't differentiate between the columns here because they were all the same. So the only discrepancy you'll see when you're looking at the numbered list for ABM is only from Jarvis, because that's just the voter credit report, is there is 42 instead of 41, but that's because there's the one provisional ballot they've already been given credit, but that ballot hasn't been scanned yet because it's scanned with the provisional ballot. So our EMS report, which you see here, only says 41 because that ballot hasn't been scanned, but that person's already been given credit because as soon as we got their cure, we went ahead and gave them credit. So everyone matched across. You'll see that one difference because provisional. So we'll see how many election day provisionals we end up after we're done with the session today. And when we hit the 5 p.m. deadline, if those 3 individuals bring us their documentation. And so looking at turnout by district and party, we do have that breakdown there for y'all. And then on Monday, I also have the breakdown, the same breakdown for AIP and ABM. So you'll be able to see kind of what that looks like for us. So we have 3.37% turnout for the Democrat D2 race, 0.44% for the D2 Republican, 3.17% for the D4 Democrat, and 0.51% for D4 Republican. So that gives you a good breakdown by type.
What is that percent of?
Out of the registered voter, the total registered voters in District 2, since we don't register by party, so that's not Democrat voters in D2, that's total voters in D2 and total voters in D4, which is the same number that you see on the summary reports. It's 128,184 for D4 and 111,930 for D2. So active registered voters. So we'll have, again, those final numbers for provisional on Monday. That's it. That's all I got. Anybody have any questions for Director Fong? No? And then I guess moving on then to board member comments. Any comments? Well, I just want to thank you for running an easy election for everybody. It seems like it went well and the team was pretty solid. So thank you for that. And then Mr. Pinto, you're joining us instead of Mr. White today.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Did you have any need for executive session?
Not today.
Wow.
And thank you for stepping in, running the meeting when our chair couldn't be here.
Thank you. Our next meeting will be on Monday, February 17th at 3 p.m. and that will be in the BOC room at 100 Cherokee Street. And if there is nothing further, we will call the meeting adjourned at 3:14 p.m. Thank you.
I took a shower for this.